Hey, do you want to know how to find better food and wine pairings? We think the key to finding the best food and wine pairings is in how you evaluate them. And we at Pairing Base evaluate them in 2 steps. We look at the first part of the pairing experience, which you call the attack, and the second part of the experience, which you might call the resolution. Hi, I'm Tracy Gardner from Pairing Base, and we're going to get into that right now. I'm going to show you guys how we evaluate a food and wine pairing. So here's the idea. When you take a bite of food, you of course notice that the food is delicious. But after you swallow the food, you might notice that there's some weight in your mouth. Whenever I eat a bite of food, I find the experience after I swallow the food to be a little bit flat. In any event, I think there's someplace you want to go next to make the experience even better. Like, I don't want to be left with that flatness, and I don't want to be left with that weight. What I found is that there's something that you want next, something that the wine can deliver next. And when it does deliver that, it makes you feel great. So I'm going to give this wine a taste and see if it delivers what I want next. Absolutely. I have the food left some weight in my mouth. You know, this is a fried cutlet with a rich butter sauce. So that's certainly going to leave some weight in my mouth. And whether I know it or not, what's going to make me feel better is to have that weight lifted and to get relief from that weight. And so this wine, because it has high acidity, was able to lift that weight and gave me what I wanted. This is probably a good time to mention that while there are 2 parts of the pairing, the initial part or the attack and then the resolution, for each part, there are 3 levels at which the wine can perform. The wine can make something welcome happen in the mouth. It can give me exactly what I want. It can make me feel good. And that's really what we call level 1. It can make nothing really happen. It can be boring and kind of not really have an impression at all. We give that a 0. The third thing it can do is it can make something bad happen. It can take what I want to get, what I'd love to get at this point, and give me the exact opposite. Give me something bad, give me something unwelcome, or just fail to give me something welcome. And that's a -1. So again, it can be a 1, a 0, or a -1 on each part of the pairing. This guy was definitely a level 1 on the pairing. I've noticed the weight in my mouth. I wanted relief from the weight, and the acidity of the wine beautifully lifted that weight and took me to a better place, took me to a sort of brighter, lighter mouthfeel, and that was pleasing. So again, this guy gets a 1 on the attack. Let me taste this other wine to see what that does on the attack or first phase of the pairing experience. I want to go somewhere now. This wine didn't have nearly the level of acidity, and so what I got was something kind of fat and broad, which wasn't welcome, which wasn't where I wanted to go next, and a little bit boring. So I'm not sure whether to give this wine a -1 or a 0 on the attack, but it did not do well. Again, it was the experience I got in my mouth initially, given where I wanted to go next, was I didn't get there. I got, a fat, broad, flat feeling. So let's look at the second part of the experience. The second part of the experience is a little more complicated. When you eat a bite of food, you get a little bit of food residual left in your mouth. If you think about what gives you an aftertaste when you have a bite of food, that's the tiny bit of food that's left all over your mouth. When you take a sip of wine, that solubilizes that food and brings that food into solution with your wine. It might sound gross, but it's not enough food to make it really a sloshy slurry, just enough to change the flavor or taste of the wine. That's what happens in the second stage of the pairing. That's what we call the resolution. Once the wine meets the food residual in your mouth and changes, it gives you some notes, it gives you some flavors, and the question now is what the wine gives you in the resolution stage what you want? Is it a level 1, something very welcome, something very exciting, something you're happy to have in your mouth? Is it level 0, which is kind of boring, maybe not even there, maybe nothing shows up? Or is it a level -1, where the wine brings something, but it brings something bad, something you don't want? So We'll look at both of these wines to see how they do on the second part of the pairing, the resolution. Take another quick bite of food because that's going to allow me to look at the resolution, and also because food's really good. Good weight. Lifted the weight, and then I got the resolution. The resolution was really nice. The dish is a lemon white wine butter sauce. What's really prominent in the dish is the lemon in the sauce. And so something interesting happens with this wine, the resolution. You get flavors developing around the lemon. So the lemon sauce is just straightforward, linear lemon. What this wine brings in that resolution stage is really sort of lots of layers of flavor around that simple lemon sauce. So you've got like some lime flavors, some lime zest. You've got some lemon zest. You got what I would call really sort of citrus complexity, not just sort of citrus simplicity. In the world of food and cooking, when you want to make a dish better, you make the dish either more complex in terms of flavors, or you add layers of flavors. And that just is what people find more pleasing. This wine definitely in the resolution phase adds more layers of pleasure. And so this guy gets a 1 in not just the attack, but in the resolution as well. So this guy is a 1 and a 1. So I like this very much. Let's taste the other guy in the resolution stage, see what happens. Great tasting dish, bright lemony, kind of fatty as well. Weight's not lifted. And in the resolution stage, I get a very obvious sour and bitter taste in my mouth, which is not welcome at all. What I promise with level 2.0 wine pairing is that it makes the food experience even better. This fails to do that at 2 points. It fails to do that by taking you where you want to go on the attack, and by bringing something bad in the resolution. So this is like a 0 to -1 in the attack, definitely a -1 on the resolution. So this guy is not a good pairing. Now what's interesting is that when I went around to the market, asked tons of people in stores, checked websites to find out what people like with this dish, tons of people said you want a Merceau. This is a Merceau. They thought you wanted something that was rich and buttery because the dish itself is rich and buttery. But what they didn't know, I guess because they didn't taste the wine with the dish, is that the oak in the wine, really, the dish really sort of pops the oak up to a very high level. So it's very prominent in the mouth, and that creates a bad experience. So it turns out you don't want this Merceau or other Merceaus I tasted, because any hint of oak gets promoted. And in fact, when I mentioned that, I should say you should be sure if you make this dish not to use a wine that has a lot of oak in it, because that's going to end up being bitter in your mouth, and you're not going to like that very much. That's how we evaluate pairings. We look at the attack and the resolution. We look at where it performs on a 3-point scale. This guy performed very well. This was a Albarino that no one recommended with the dish. But in talking through the dish with Irene, a sommelier I work with, we thought that we wanted something that had some salinity to add to the dish. And it just turned out that in addition to the salinity, we discovered the citrus, sort of lemony lime citrus complexity made the dish a whole lot better. So this is one we really like with the dish. The Merceau we do not. One more thing I can add that makes this whole thing more complicated. Again, this is if you are going to try to do this on your own, or if you're going to try to figure out why your friends like or don't like your pairings. Here's something you should know. I'll cover that in the next video. You have to go back to the bedroom, buddy. I'm not sure people want to see a cat walking around while I'm doing this. Let's go back to the bedroom, buddy. Come on. Come on. I got you. Hey everyone, we got a ton of great videos for you. So click here to see the next one.